crazy. I love the smell of Dylan in an evening. Smells like victory. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome back to another episode of Oh No, 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 the Raith Rovers podcast, where we once again have the absolute privilege to talk about this Ian Murray Rovers side. So for the third game in a row, the Rovers dominated a first half, and Dan O'Reilly's header gave them a half-time lead. And Dylan Easton's goal immediately after half-time suggested that the dangerous period after the break curse had finally been broken. But an inexplicable following 20 minutes saw a Dan O'Reilly own goal, a Brian Graham penalty, and a Blair Alston finish turn the game on its head. But if you were worried at that point, you haven't been paying attention. And the Rovers duly did what the Rovers do, with Callum Smith and Sam Stanton restoring order. I can't wait to get into this one, so let me introduce today's panel. First of all, we have Blair Hopcroft. How are you, Blair?
Absolutely buzzing, mate.
Fantastic, me too. Scott Fleming as well. How are you, Scott?
Superb. Can't wait.
Carol Allison-Smith is here. How are you, Carol?
I'm all right. Disappointed I did not spend a damp Friday evening in Kirkcaldy.
And finally, he's back. Robbie Weir. How are you, Robbie?
Yeah, it wasn't a two-match suspension. I was out with COVID last weekend, so I'm doing a lot better than I was last Saturday, albeit I did have the dulcet tones of Davy and Neil to see me through that Inverness game. Just one of our many comebacks that we're been enjoying.
Just the medicine you need, isn't it?
Exactly.
Right, let's dive straight into this one then. So we all had a right good go at guessing at lineups on Thursday night, which was just complete folly, as it always is. As Ewan Murray came back in, Scott Brown, I think, unlucky to not be back into that lineup. But the first half, I think, certainly justified, as it tends to have done recently, Ian Murray's decision. I mean, I think we can almost take that first half as a whole, because there's so much to talk about in the in the second half. But Scott, do you want to give us your thoughts on the first half and how that played out?
I mean, just touching on the team, I think the fact that we spent so long talking about it during the week, and also just when we got that sort of heads up from the club that pretty much we had an almost full squad apart for Keith Watson, everybody just got a buzz straight away for that, going, how good's our bench going to be? And then straight away, you must, as Partick players, you must think they're going to be going for 90 odd minutes, even with a smaller bench, but never mind with the players that we could bring off the bench. But and it just sums up as well, like all the sort of score apps you get for checking scores and team lineups and everything. The one that I've got changed the lineup for the Rovers in terms of formation 5 times before kickoff. It didn't even have a clue what we were going to do. So, but no, I must say I kind of did think that Scott Brown might miss out just because he missed last week. Had he played last week, I think he wouldn't have been one of the guys dropped. I think it was just he's coming back, and I think it was kind of slightly easy for him to leave him out, despite him being the captain this year. I just think it was a slightly easier decision because he missed out. I still think it was a very good team to go with. It was set up brilliantly. Byrne just in front of the back four again, Stanton able to push up again, and then Hamilton and Vaughan, that first half especially, they two caused them mayhem up in their back line. Hamilton, I think that's the most I've seen him involved in a first half. I mean, he was involved at the Pars away in the Cup, but he was almost involved in everything that we did. and he was also sprinting to get the ball back if he had lost it or whatever. I just thought he was brilliant that first half. But no, I thought first half in general, possibly the best performance of the season, and I feel like we're saying that almost every weekend. It's no, we were superb, and I thought O'Reilly. There's a little bit of doubt whether it was his goal, because Vaughan seemed to think he got a toenail or something on it, but and also I think the keeper was a wee bit suspect, but no, he got really well above his defender to nod it in. But no, first half we should have been more than one up though.
I thought the same. I thought the keeper is a little bit culpable at that goal. He probably should get to it, but he more than makes up for that with a couple of other saves that he makes in that first half. Robbie, what did you think to the first 45 minutes?
Yeah, fully agree with sort of where Scott's came from and what he said. Jack Hamilton did really, really well. Just over the course of the game, just an absolute pest for their backline and just really impressive. He was a bit unlucky with a shot that Sneddon actually did well to save. But generally speaking, we got into the final third. And so last season, the major problem was sort of like we got to the final third, no one there. This last night, it was very much a case of we got to the final third and just literally the touches that we were getting for the players that were going to be taking the shots just weren't falling to us. And it wasn't anyone was doing anything wrong. We should have had more goals than we did. But again, that's just the way that it is. And overall, a tremendous performance in that first half from Rovers, from our perspective. I felt that Ian Murray set up the team absolutely perfectly, and that we went about our business and we looked really just comfortable in a game that was a second v third where you've got a chance to go top. They gave us a bit of a doing on the first day of the season by all accounts, and look at it now, it totally changed. So yeah, very impressive.
I thought it was interesting that the kind of critical point in those two games was the same. So when they ran all over the top of us in the first game, it was the centre of our midfield that was really the weak point. We just couldn't get a grip on that. I mean, we basically didn't have a holding midfielder at all. But then last night, I thought it was the same. I thought that was their problem, that Sean Byrne was so good in that first half, just doing what he does, which is nothing too over the top. He's not sort of all action, but he's just always where you want him to be and always doing what you want him to do. And they could not get to grips with them at all. I was surprised actually at halftime that they didn't put Stuart Bannigan on, just because he's a very similar type of player. I thought they would have brought him in. Like Alston and Kerr McInroy, like they're good players, but they couldn't get their foot on the ball at all in that first half. After about the first 2 minutes, where McInroy really looked like his tail was up. I mean, a couple other chances in that. So I'm thinking Vaughan had a kind of a shot on the turn. Jack Hamilton sort of slalomed through their defence at one point. The keeper made a really good stop to kind of tip it over the bar. And there was one that kind of Vaughan sort of dinked it into Stanton, and he just snatched it a little bit.
Yeah, it just sort of almost like came off his shin, I felt, rather than actually being a shot. And you could see the sort of frustration there. But yeah, overall, just, yeah, what you want. Like, on a different day, it's fallen to his feet and you're likely getting a goal out of it. But
again, I mean, we've talked about it recently in kind of previous seasons. And we mentioned it in terms of this Dunfermline side as well. This season have the same problem where you need to create like multiple chances just to kind of force a goal. Whereas the Rovers now start to look like actually they could score at any point. Anytime they go forward, they look dangerous. Carol, could you believe it was only 1-0 at halftime?
No, I think we should have been 3 or 4 up, easy. I mean, to give Partick their credit, they looked like they'd done their homework, but were 3 or 4 steps behind. They just couldn't get things to click. They knew what we were doing, but they didn't know. They couldn't work out lineup like nobody could, and they just always seemed just a little bit behind. And we were bombarding them, but just could not get it to click. And
follow-up question, could you believe that their goalie came out wearing the same colour jersey for the second half?
I'm surprised anyone could tell the difference between the goalie or any outfield player. I mean, I was watching on Raith TV and I could not tell the difference at some points. There was a few times where you're thinking, okay, that's a handball because he's out of the box. Oh, no, it's not. it was unbelievable. I don't know why Partick didn't complain, because they obviously couldn't see their own goalkeeper, why Rovers didn't complain, and how the ref let them away with it. But then the ref wasn't the best, shall we say.
Yes, I suspect we might touch on the performance of Mr. Alan Muir more than once over the next little period. Blair, why don't you give us your thoughts on the first half, and you can have the first minute of the second half as well, please.
Yeah, I think you covered the first half really well. I think the team lineup initially, I think is really brave from Ian Murray. I think leaving Brown out, as much as Scott's right, it is the right decision. He's your captain, and he's been great all season. We talked about it kind of on the pre-game one with the how do you leave him out, but how do you fit him in kind of thing. So actually, credit to Ian Murray for kind of sticking to his guns and doing what he's wanted to do. I thought Mullen instead of Connolly was quite brave as well. But actually, if you're looking at it, if they two are going to play the 90 minutes between them, you're probably wanting Connolly to be the one coming in because he's more of an impact than what Mullen is. And Mullen's deliveries last night, again, just utterly ridiculous. He's really, really brave from Ian Murray. I actually think just before we get to the first minute of the second half, the first minute of the first half, that ball into Brian Graham and the header, and he got the head knock. A good save from Kev. That's a minute and a half in. And we talked again midweek about goals. Like this game had goals in it. And they were talking about it in the pre-match on the BBC about how it was goals galore and stuff. But they kind of came out effectively all guns blazing. They wanted to kind of catch us. But I think Murray did a really good job of cancelling them out. I think their strengths in the width and actually the way that we set up kind of nullified the width. And I think that's why we won the midfield battle, because we forced the game into the middle. Do you know what I mean? And if you force anybody in Sean Byrne, you're losing. Like Sean Byrne he was brilliant last night. So good. Cruising about. And Sam Stanton, his work rate in the first half again was brilliant. And the chances, I sat and watched it again. I got up this morning, back at 7, couldn't sleep. Got up and watched the whole game, the full 90 minutes again on the BBC. And it was chance after chance after chance. Even the headers at corners. We've not been a threat at corners. I was talking about this last night. When was the last time we had two centre halves who were a threat at corners?
Aye.
You're talking 2008. You're talking probably Campbell and Big Marv.
I thought Benny and Ewan Murray in League One were a threat at times.
Yeah, maybe. Benny was a funny one. Benny never ever really seemed to contribute massively goals wise. We've always kind of had one, but it was the two of them last night. I thought they were great, but I thought Partick had no idea what to do in the first half. They had no clue. They just tried to seem to want to catch us on the break and couldn't make it work. So we get to half time, like you say, man, it should have been 5 or 6. I'm walking around back to the club going, if this is second v third, we are miles ahead of them. Like miles ahead. We can't lose this. We're not even going to concede tonight. And then you come out, and we were, to be fair, we were all laughing. Like, it's only 1-0. We'll come back out, first 10 minutes, they're going to score. Like, it's guaranteed. And then up pops Dylan Easton, doing what Dylan Easton does. Poor clearance for the goalie. And I think this is really important, that's not why Dylan Easton scored, because he had so much still to do. Do you know what I mean? The break, he's got two men in front of him, one man kind of to his right as well. He breaks through them, and the finish, and actually Vaughan jumping out the way to let the ball hit that bottom corner. An absolutely glorious start to the second half, at which point I'm like, right, 3 or 4, this is going to be easy. What can go wrong?
I think it's interesting with Dylan Easton that I know that Craig Cairns puts up so much stats into the Courier's work, in particular, just sort of like about like the 5 clubs, their players, how things are going, and you get some like really niche ones off like off the stats websites. But Dylan Easton was like comfortably up there as one of the best for successful dribbles in the championship last season, and I don't know what it'll be like this season, but yeah, it's very funny because people can find him a frustrating player, but I will never have a go at Dylan Easton for losing a ball in a situation like that, because the other side of it is that the first minute of that second half, he runs into two players, comes out the other side with the ball, and then pings in a shot in at the bottom corner. And you're saying, just tremendous. It's just exactly why. And it's been interesting to see over the last few weeks now that a lot of sort of fans of, like, whether it's Dundee United or lower end sort of top flight clubs are starting to say, oh, Dylan Easton, he's out of contract at the end of the season. But the guy, and you can say this about a fair few of the squad, I was watching the Footy Adventures video just before we came on there, and Easton was sort of saying when he was at Kelty, he wasn't really enjoying football. But now, just a lot of them, they just look like they're absolutely loving it. And it's great. And why wouldn't you be? And it shows so much just in terms of how things are performing on the pitch.
That's exactly it. And it's it's one of these things that sort of winning sort of solves the problem for you. The fact that you're winning games, everybody's happy. And I think that goes a huge way in terms of what we've talked about, the strength on the bench. Dylan Easton was talking in his interview with the BBC after the game about Callum Smith. Like, Callum Smith has every right to feel so hard done by to not be playing. But Jamie Gullen had said after the Inverness game, which is if you're winning, you really don't have anything to complain about. And all you can do is try to make an impact when you come on. But that's what these guys are doing. But you're absolutely right. Excuse me, about Dylan Easton, the chances that he takes, because that goal is the perfect example. As you said, he deliberately lets those two guys get really close to him, and then it's the little shimmy as he just kind of weaves between the two that gives him the space. And you see those where they don't come off for him, but those are the chances that he has to take, because when it does, that's creating the goal scoring chances, and that's simply the price you pay with a player like that. It's not going to come off for them every single time. But when it does, it makes such a difference. The very similar goal to the one that he scored at Hamilton a couple of weeks back. Again, just the same thing, just direct running from the edge of the box, and the perfect weather for a shot like that. Callum Smith is very similar, just keeping it low, and the goalkeeper obviously he's partially at fault, as you say, with that kick out. There's a long time kind of between then and Dylan Easton actually put it in the bottom corner, and he's just got no chance getting down to that.
I was going to say with Dylan Easton, we've mentioned it before, but you're right. It's that speculate to accumulate thing. He's going to try it, and 9 times out of 10, if it comes off, great, because there's going to be that one, or maybe I'm being generous, maybe 6 or 7 out of 10 as it comes off. But he's added the other side to his game. He's working back, he's tracking back, he's defending, he's chipping in. And he's kind of driving us forward. There was a few times last night where he's, blocking crosses. There was one he read the fullback perfectly, came in, covered him, blocked it out for a corner sort of thing. So yeah, as much as we've had players like that in the past, and you talk about a player like that being a luxury, and for me, they're a luxury when that's all they offer you. And I'd say Dylan Easton last season, you could maybe level that at him at times. And I know from reading on Twitter and stuff last night, there was St Johnstone fans in particular actually were talking about his time with him, with them, where you could see the talent he had, but he didn't work hard enough, and that's perhaps why he ended up at Kelty and Forfar and all these other clubs that he was at. He didn't do that bit, but I don't know if it's just enjoying his football, as Robbie says, or if it's the relationship with Ian Murray, or both. But he's certainly getting the best out of him.
And that you need that for that game last night. Sorry, I've forgotten who said it, but someone said it already. The way that Thistle set up with their wingers and their fullbacks, they're going to get forward, so you need your wingers to work. We've complained plenty about him on this podcast already for something that happened like 10 or 15 years ago. But Barry Mackay was always the pinnacle, the kind of peak example of someone who just doesn't do that. Like, he was an absolute luxury.
Yeah.
He wasn't even particularly luxurious, to be honest. He was just no interest in tracking back. So in that game last night, he might have still potentially scored a goal like Dylan Easton's, but he wouldn't have done anywhere near the kind of work that. And to be fair, it's not just a case of Ian Murray choosing the only guys who'll do that, because he very clearly wanted Dylan Easton and Josh Mullen to do that. So they're getting forward. They're also covering Harry Milne and Jack McMillan on the other side. But equally, Aidan Connolly's very, very good at doing that, and did it very well when he came on. And Callum Smith, if you put him on the left-hand side, he's the same. works really, really hard. Jamie Gullen came on that side, and again in the last couple of minutes was down in his own corner, digging the ball back. I think it's a testament to the team that Ian Murray's built, that he is very clearly placing a premium on these kind of players. So that actually he's not settling for a kind of luxury player where, right, give me an attacker and I'll accept the fact he's not going to work back. He's made sure he's getting guys who kind of cover both ways, and I think you need to in a game like that. So that was
just before we move on. See the out of contract thing. I think it's quite interesting with a few of them. We've spoken about like Sam Stanton and stuff, and there's a few that you think, they might move on, and there's a few that are under long-term contracts and stuff. Dylan Easton's a funny one for me though, because does he want to go? Like, he's 28. He's got this kind of period in his career where he's flourishing under a manager who clearly gets him and who he works with. If a Ross County or a St Johnstone or whatever come in for him, does he want to go and play for another manager in a team where he's not going to have the same kind of freedom to do what he needs to do? I don't know. He's a funny one for me. I think he might actually hinge more on whether we keep Murray than whether we keep him.
It's always an interesting one, isn't it? And I think that, like, you see it so often where players will get picked up by a club like a Livy over the last few years, and then just like it maybe doesn't work out for them as well as they think. Like, the grass isn't always necessarily going to be greener, and I get that grass being green does not pay your mortgages. Armstrong was a perfect example in that first season in the Championship, but then as well at the same time he managed to turn it around. Just a really weird situation. The one I always think back to is Manny Duku. Like, had 6 months where he looked, maybe not even 6 months, 4 months where he looked unstoppable with us, and then it all seemingly looks like he chucked the toys out the pram, and then he ends up going up to Inverness and then does nothing up there, trying like a bear to score against us but couldn't, and then after that he's playing in Gibraltar now, I think, for a second tier team there. I don't know, basically, yeah, pretty much. It's just like, but again, it's one of these things where the players need to do what's best for them at the end of the day, because it is a short career and it's short contracts and things like that. But at the same time, the feeling around this football club that we've got at this moment, and I know that it's been touched on time and time again, there's nothing like that. You don't see that at any club at our level or sort of the lower bottom end of the Scottish top league. Like, it's just ridiculous, the unity that we've got at the moment, considering where we were. So yeah, time will tell.
I think the other example that kind of springs to mind for me is Scott Tiffany, who was with Thistle last season.
Yeah,
you can easily make an argument that he's in a very similar kind of profile to Dylan Easton. So was playing in a Thistle side that did really well last season in the Championship. He was one of the first names on the team sheet in that side. If he was fit, he was playing, he was contributing, doing really, really well. He was out of contract, chose to go to Dundee. And just looking there, he's played 9 games in the league, and most of them are off the bench. In fact, I think looking at this, he's potentially started 2 league games in the Premiership this season. And obviously Dundee are doing well, but that's the chance you take. Where actually, if he had stayed at Thistle, he'd have played, a dozen games in the league already this season. So it's a trade-off. I'm sure he's getting more money and there's all this kind of stuff. You want to play at the highest level, but these are the things that these guys need to do. They need to consider. And I think probably the only other thing to say on the contract side is I don't think there's any reason to get kind of antsy about this. Because again, if you put yourself in the player's shoes, Dylan Easton's contract extension offer from the Rovers isn't going anywhere. Yeah. Like, he's got time to wait and see what happens. There's no point where Ian Murray's going to be like, well, actually, I'm fed up with this. Like, that offer's there. That offer's solid. He can take that to the bank. So he's got the time. It would be almost negligent of him not to wait and see what happens across the course of the season and make his decision slightly later on.
I think I would add as well that as fans, we literally have no clue what's going on behind closed doors. It might be the case that he's sat down with John Potter and Ian Murray already, and they're like, yeah, let's fucking go. We'll announce it later in the year. Like, we know that this is a formality. So yeah.
We'll wait until we get beat and then we'll announce it to keep everybody happy. And
aye.
Could really do with announcing this sometime soon.
Christmas is coming up.
Yes, right. Let's keep going in this game then. We've only got to just after half time, and everything happened after this point. So yeah, we were 50 minutes into this game, quite happy, getting the feet up. This Rovers side's quality, don't need to worry. And then things took a turn to some degree. Scott, do you want to come in on kind of how this kind of started to unfold in quite a mundane fashion to start with? I mean, it's a bit of a scrappy free kick in the middle of the park.
I mean, it was just such a basic error, it seemed, for Dan O'Reilly for the goal, because like when the ball comes from the delivery, I mean, it's a decent ball. It's like in a dangerous area, as they always say, like your free kick taker, hit an area and see what happens. But like, I'm still unsure if Dan O'Reilly either sees the ball very late or if he just thinks, I'm not under any pressure, I'm actually going, and then he thought, actually, maybe I'll just knee it out. But he's then just right in front of the goal and it's gone in the bottom corner. But I find it very strange how I think a lot of things have flashed through his head at one time and then he's just went, oh, I've got to do something. And then he's just need it. And it's went to the back of net. Because Big Kev even looks like, what are you doing? Like, and then obviously we'll go on to the third goal later on, but you can see straight after that goal, it's playing on his mind. He's like, right, I need to do something good to get it off my mind. And he's trying almost too hard at that point. And when a defender's going through that sort of period, there's usually going to be another mistake in him before he gets it right again. So I felt a little bit sorry for him because he was superb again in the first half. But no, I do feel that it just, and then once they got that goal, I did have a funny feeling they might actually get an equaliser here. Just, we've not really often been 2 goals up. We talk about that we're only winning games by a goal, and it's usually because we're turned on in the 85th minute. But 2 goals up, it almost felt uncomfortable. So when they get the penalty, I just thought, right, we really need to turn it back up again, go back to how we were playing first half.
I think with that free kick, I think Dan O'Reilly, it's one of these ones where he looks over one shoulder and he knows Harry, before the ball comes in, and he knows Harry Milne's there. And he looks over the other shoulder to watch the ball coming in. And what he doesn't see is that Harry Milne just stops running. Milne essentially just makes the judgment call. He's like, right, I'm not getting to that, and pulls out of the run. And actually, if anything, Dan O'Reilly's basically marking Liam Dick at that point.
Yeah.
And then just, as you say, we'll come on to the later one as well. But he deals with them both in the opposite fashion. You know, there's one he should leave and one he should try and play, and he gets kind of back to front. And the second one is definitely informed by the first one. Like, you can tell he's in his head about that, and he thinks, I should have left that one. But with the later one, it's the guy doesn't pull out that run. But yeah, it's an interesting one just in terms of football in general, the momentum and the way that goes. So that they had been really not in that game, had not had any sort of foothold at all. You get a goal like that, you know, really out of nothing. As say, that's a soft-ish free kick, 35 yards out, and suddenly you're back in the game, and then you've got your tails up, and it did feel like there was going to be chances in that for them, and then the two kind of penalty shouts in quick succession. Blair, well, you watched the kind of the full match replay back this morning, so you'll have had a chance to see them twice.
Yeah.
What did you think to those 2 penalties, the one that wasn't given and the one that was?
So just very quickly before I get to them, just to pick up on Scott's point, again, from watching the replay, there's one angle that comes from the main stand, like where John Potter and that sits, and you can see the flight of the ball, and there's a bit of curve on it. And I think Murray goes up for the header, and I think Dan O'Reilly can't see the ball for Ewan Murray. Yeah. And as it comes over Murray, I actually don't think, and I could be wrong on this, but I don't think O'Reilly means to play it. I think it's his natural run, and the ball's just actually hit his thigh as his foot's hit the floor. So rather than his leg being in midair kind of thing and him being able to just kind of skiff off, his right foot hits the deck and it hits his knee, and it's like a proper contact on it. I don't think he actually sees it at all. I genuinely didn't. But the penalty shouts, the first one, I actually at the time thought it was a penalty from the south stand because you could see the movement of the body. I was like, that looked awkward. But in the replay, the ball clearly kicks up off his thigh, off Ewan Murray. So as much as you can go, the arm in an unnatural position and stuff, he's defended it with his leg. It's kicked up off his leg and hit his arm. You can't give that. The second one is a penalty body. You genuinely don't think you could argue with it. Again, an unnatural position for his arm to be in. Although I always think that's a really stupid thing. Like, where else is his arm going to be? Like, do you know what I mean? He's not going to dive into a tackle with his hands in his pockets. Like, he has to kind of have his arm somewhere, but he does block the ball with his arm, so it's a penalty.
Yeah, I thought exactly the same. At the time, I thought the first one, just because you can see the arms up, you think that it doesn't look great. But as you say, it comes off Murray forcing it up onto his arm. And the second one is he's making himself bigger with his arm, I think. So always kind of likely to go. And Brian Graham, one of the guys you would want taking a penalty like that, very kind of calmly put away just to dispel the conspiracy theories. And at that point, it becomes a very different game. And I think the Rovers really at that stage, even at 2-1, I didn't think they were kind of handling it too badly. But at 2 each, there was definitely a spell where things started to unravel a little bit. Robbie, do you want to come in on just kind of that spell and how you felt at that point and what you thought might have happened next, kind of once it went to 2 each?
It was a really strange one because we just didn't seem to be able to get any foothold in the game at that point. It was almost like Thistle had sort of overrun us to a degree, and they just seem to be getting so much success. They've got naturally really good wide players in Fitzpatrick. Is it Fitzpatrick? Is it? And Lawless. And yeah, just with Brian Graham always been sort of that perennial threat up top that you know that you've got there. We just really didn't seem to be able to get a handle on it. I was really impressed by Kerr McInroy. Again, I've sort of said before that I thought that he was a player that had been sort of really outstanding. But for all that they'd lapsed in terms of their midfield hold before in the first half, Thistle, they just seemed to be able to sort of negate that by just pushing forward. And yeah, for that third goal, Easton's out wide, can't stop the cross, unfortunately. Ross Milne gets beaten in the air, and it's just the right place and the right time for Blair Alston to sort of slide in and prod it in. But yeah, I think it was coming, just on the game's flow at that point. But yeah, just I feel like we're obviously mentioned about O'Reilly there, and again, it's clear that it was like one of those ones where it's clear that there is faults in there, but you can't criticise the guy too much because of the start that he's had, and he's done so well since he's came in, bearing in mind what this is his third game of football for the last 6 months. So happy to stick with the guy. I don't think anyone by any means is writing him off, and again, just reset, move on to the next game, because that's all you can do. Don't get caught up in it, don't worry about it, don't dwell on it, just move forward.
It's very easy to say, but if you put together, or if you took the 90 minutes of that game and just cut out those 2 goals that he was at fault for, he played really well. Which, as I realise that's a kind of a glib thing to say, but I mean, it is also true. Like, he didn't have. We've all seen defenders have bad games where anytime the ball comes near them, they're shaky or that kind of stuff. He didn't look like that at all. It was 2, individual errors. All players make mistakes all the time. And I think he's really unfortunate with them. And it's also, these are the kind of goals that you lose when you're constantly, for whatever reason, chopping and changing a defence. You don't have that solidity of selection. You get different guys coming in, you get different you know, communication issues and all that kind of stuff. It's always going to happen. I thought the other thing with that, the third goal, is that it's what Thistle really didn't manage to do in the first half, which is that it's Harry Milne who wins the header.
Yeah.
So it's their left back is on the corner of our 6-yard box, beating Ross Millen, because he's got a run on him, to be fair. But that's what they just couldn't get going in the first half. And then in that spell in the second half in particular, as you say, Robbie, their midfield suddenly, with their tails up, started to really take the game to Rovers. And you start to, uncharacteristically, there was like Sam Stanton gave the ball away once. And I was like, oh no, that doesn't normally happen. Like, could this be it? Could this be the time we're really going to be in trouble? But
there was a spell of about 3 or 4 minutes on the commentary, because it was Adam Masson was on the commentary with Davey in the second half, where he just kept going, oof, oof, oof. Because we just seemed to stand still for about 5-6 minutes, where we just couldn't get the ball back off them, and we were just looking like, what the is happening here? It just, but it's that period from 45 to 75, something either switches on or switches off, and they get absolutely humped.
Yeah, it was really uncharacteristic as well. We had Dylan Easton trying to play a crossfield pass and squirreling away, and there was a ball at one point for Dan O'Reilly trying to play up to Hamilton, and I mean it was as straight as an arrow on the pitch. I mean, so if he doesn't win the header, it bounces straight through for a goal kick. It was really uncharacteristic of us. You could see do it.
Jack Hamilton was getting quite frustrated. He cut a bit of a lone figure in that sort of that period up top where he was getting a bit frustrated, and you could see it, like it came across. But again, I think the next bit's really important, to say that Ian Murray's changes just phenomenal. I would never have thought that, the foresight to be able to have them, and I'm sure that's what we'll move on to next.
Certainly will, because I think that's really the I was going to say it's the turning point. There's about 17 turning points in this game, but it was the later kind of turning point. So you've got the substitution. So the goal goes in on the, I think, the 69th minute. This will go 3-2 up, and at that point, Ian Murray already had Callum Smith and Aidan Connolly stripped. They were ready to go, but he was holding back. When it was still 2 each, he'd had them ready and he was kind of waiting. I'm not quite sure what he was waiting for, but certainly as soon as the goal went in, you know, those changes were made.
Is that not just a positional thing? You know that thing of you never throw a substitute on when you're defending a free kick or defending a corner kind of thing? Because I thought the same as you. I wasn't sure what he was waiting on.
Yeah, it looked to me like it went through like a couple of phases almost, like just a couple of minutes where he was kind of waiting for them. And then, I mean, the next one I think technically was enforced in as much as Ewan Murray looked like he'd taken another knock to his shoulder, but it's only 2 minutes later that Scott Brown comes on. I think we would have seen Scott Brown anyway. I suspect that was incoming. But that, personally, for me, I think is the single biggest impact is Scott Brown. Despite the fact that Callum Smith scored a goal, you know, Aidan Connolly was doing brilliant work. Jamie Gillen, but Scott Brown, I think, was the game changer there. Anybody disagree with that, or does anyone want to come in on Scott Brown's impact?
It was really clever for Murray. I mean, he made the change when he did, and put Brown in at centre half, and we stuck with the kind of 4 at the back. And I'm not. This is a bit. I watched it again, like I said, but I still can't quite figure out the moment when it changed. But the commentator actually picks up on it. He's like, Brown appears to be playing in the midfield, but we did the same in the South Stand. I was like, where's Brown going? And then I was like, wait now, why is Millen dropped? He's playing a back 3, and then it was that thing of, if he's playing a back, are we playing a 3-6-1 again? Like, are we? And it was so fluid, but there didn't seem to be a moment where, you know, there wasn't like an injury and then the players all come round and he goes, right, so you're going here and you're going there and we're going to do this. They'd obviously talked about it, and it was just Partick didn't even know it was happening. Brown just seemed to kind of come out of the defence, and all of a sudden he was in the midfield, and they're going, well, crap, what do we do? Brilliant.
It looked to me like I mean, this is a fairly niche reference, but it's like the old kind of championship managers where you can kind of you lay your team out in their formation, but then you can also sort of draw a line for an individual player.
Right click.
And that was, like Scott Brown was positioned as a centre half, and then just a right click line through the middle of the park. It's like, pick the ball up here and then just carry it 40 yards until you decide what you're going to do with it.
Never go back.
Exactly. But it was so effective because but first of all, he's so good at it. But it's obviously it's really, really tricky to try and get to grips with that. And you can see that at a couple of points. Actually, it's while I think it's Alistair Lamont's the commentator, and he's saying, is this a back three? And you can almost see the Thistle players, as Scott Brown's running, looking to each other to be like, who's picking him up?
That was actually the build-up to Smith's goal, I think, because he kind of breaks through and then he plays that kind of lovely clipped pass to Liam Dick on the left, which kind of starts the move for the goal. But you
know what gets even better? They're still doing the commentary for the fourth, and you'll know this, Blair, because we've both listened to this, and they're like, it's not a conventional formation as well, like breaking up the pitch to score the fourth. But we'll come to that. It's aye.
It was like football transformers. It's obviously well rehearsed. They've obviously practiced this. Because like, if you could watch it from above, it'd be like one of those Olympic opening ceremonies of people just moving into the right position. Because it's seamless. It's absolutely seamless.
That's going to be the title for the podcast, Murray Ball Roll Out. It's just...
I was thinking Transformers, Rovers in disguise.
The one thing I wasn't sure is whether Murray instigated it, and this is maybe a bit bold, or whether Brown instigated it, because there was one point before that where Brown was going mental. He was like remonstrating with the kind of bench, and he's doing all this, and we're in the south stand going, what's he annoyed about? Like, who's he demonstrating at? So I don't know whether he's saying to Murray, we need to change it, and he's calling it from on the pitch, or whether Murray said to him, we're going to do this at some point, and he's now going, now we're doing it again. But it was glorious.
But it's exactly as you say. It leads to the third goal because it's actually the big penalty shout in the kind of build up to that as well. Sam Stanton gets kind of cleared out at the edge of the box. I think it's James McFadden is the co-commentator, and he says exactly what I was thinking at the time, which is not sure whether that's inside the box or not. But it's definitely a foul. Yeah. Stanton takes it away from one defender, and it's a different defender who hoofs it clear. Stanton gets cleared out, but I will not worry about it too much because, as you say, the ball then kind of comes back round. Scott Brown, drives through and I think really shifts Thistle. Their whole defence kind of shifts because Scott Brown's coming forward. And it's almost a kind of rugby pass. He kind of clips it just slightly backwards for Liam Dick. He goes into that corner, and then Callum Smith is a lovely little kind of half turn as he receives that pass just to get himself enough space, shifts it, and then like Dylan Easton's, just gets the power on it, keeps it low, and it's the keepers get hardly. The keeper would have to do incredibly well just to get down to that. I think he's a little bit unsighted as well. But at that point, and we touched about this on Thursday night as well, if you're on either side, the Rovers get that late-ish equaliser. There's only one thing on the mind of everybody in that ground. So here we go again, and I mean you could feel it in the stand certainly. Carol, I think you'd predicted a slightly different scoreline, but you had predicted a comeback win. Presumably, no shadow of a doubt in your mind once the third went in that there was a fourth coming.
No, I mean I'm not going to lie. The between minute 45 and 75, I thought, this could be embarrassing. This could be embarrassing. We could be getting our arses scalped. But then, when you get to minute 75 and you're just watching the transformer formation go in and Brown just go full on Leroy Jenkins, I am going in for this. You're like, and it's like anybody who hasn't watched Rovers this season, if you think we're not getting one in the last 85 to 95 minutes, then you've been sleeping. And there's only opposition. Everyone should be doing their homework. No, forget about it. Don't do your homework. Forget it. Forget the last 85 to 95.
Yeah, you're 100% getting enough goals in that pit spell at the start of the second half where you're dominating that you are the team that is going to just stop us. Don't worry about
it. Exactly.
It's not even that. It's the same thing. And Michael Stewart said it. They kind of keep doing that all season. Watkins. What?
Why no? Why not? Give us a good reason why we can't.
100%.
I
There's
never
no reason
understand
why we
it.
can't.
The game's 90 minutes long. It's not like scoring in the last 10 minutes is cheating.
No.
It's literally, it's
Yeah.
no different to scoring in the first 10 minutes.
A goal scored in the 30th minute is no different to a 90th minute goal, other than emotionally. Like, yeah.
And again, it's very much it's a deliberate action. You know, you can see the strength coming off the bench. Like, we're not scoring goals by accident in the last minute. You know, if you win 4 games in a row with own goals in the last minute, you could maybe go, well, your luck's going to run out at some point. But just the number of games we've looked at, you look at the subs that we've been able to bring on versus the subs the opposition have been able to bring on, and that's a difference maker. And I think it's exactly that.
I was going to say our bench feels like a tiger cage at the zoo, and it's like he's rattled them all up, and he's been like, "You're not getting to play today. You're not getting to play today." And they're like, "We'll see when I come on. I'm going to show you. I am going to." So Callum's coming on. Callum Smith's coming on, and he's like, "Right, give me the ball because I'm going to score this one, and then I'm going to set up another one in a minute." And Aidan Connolly's going, "Well, you're not getting away with that on your own, so I'm getting wired in." It's like we've got this. There was actually the point where we were laughing in the stand. Murray shouted to the 4 subs that were warming up.
And all of them.
But it was Gullen. So I'm going to get this wrong. Gullen, Smith. Who else was there? Connolly. And it might have been, I can't remember who the other one was.
Scott McGill?
I think it was. And he shouts, and Murray's doing the, come here. And all 4 of them went, which one of us? Which one? Is it him? Is it me? And I was saying, see, last season, if the manager did that, you knew who it was. You instantly knew which one it was. And he's going, come here. And the 4 of them are going, yes, boss. Like, how's my time?
I was thinking that as well, because you're thinking, like, when the boys come down to warm up, and 12 months ago, that was Kyle Connell, Connor McBride, and John Fredrickson, I think, by this point.
Yeah.
Deary me.
Embarrassment.
Change days, like it really is. So let's get to the really fun bit then. So the 4th goal, remarkably early, to be honest, by the Rovers standards, deciding to get their business done, and gives a bit of extra time to enjoy it this week. All the substitutes combining, really, I think at that point. So you've got just the quick free kick, the quick kind of thinking from Scott Brown. One of these where I think if you wanted to be really, really critical, the defender's got to do so much better, because he's there, he's on the scene to block the quick free kick, but he's got no awareness of who the options are, so he's just kind of standing there because he thinks he should be. Whereas he really should, even if he needs to take a booking, he should be stopping that. But as soon as it goes out to Aidan Connolly on that side, I was like, this is a goal. This is it. I genuinely think I just went, yes! As Aidan Connolly picked up the ball out on the touchline. Just like there's only one way this is ending up. And it's really, and I'll let somebody else talk in a minute, but the finish as well, I think at the time, almost I really didn't credit Sam Stanton enough. The technique on that finish, because he's having to take it, he's actually sort of in mid-air almost to try and get his foot kind of onto that. It's really, really good. Scott, tell us how you saw that one.
I had put into the group chat as soon as the goal had went in, because I was also the same. I was like, oh, that's brilliant. He's taking that so quickly, because I was like, well, there's a big chance coming here because Connolly's got free rein at just running down that line. And then it's Smith then that runs past Mill to then cut it back. That goal actually reminded me the cup game that we pumped the Pars at home, 3-0. What was the Aussie boy's name again that scored? Duggan. That goal reminded me of that, how it's just been quickly worked down that side and then just fired into the box. Although his was a diving header, like it was a similar worked goal. But I actually thought as soon as we went 3-3, before obviously we go on to get that goal, I think Partick, whether Brian Graham missed last week, I think, due to injury or illness or whatever.
Suspension after bamming up the Morton fans.
I knew for the minute they brought on that cart horse, Adaloy, that we were winning that game. There was no way he's going to have an impact. He's hopeless. How he got 11 goals at Ayr United, I'll never know, because anytime he played us, he was rotten. But when they brought him on, I thought, well, they've taken off the best striker to bring on an absolute huddy. So how are we not going to win this? And then Fireman Sam to the rescue, puts out the fire and then just scores again. I mean, I don't know. I think this might be, it was like Vaughan and Regan Hendry, but I think Sam Stanton surpassed my favourite Rovers player in my lifetime. He's honestly just ridiculous how good he is. And just, he's so calm about it. I don't know how he's no going absolutely ballistic. Like, obviously, he's over the moon that he's scoring goals and involved and playing every week, but like, he's just so good.
He really is. It's just, and he's getting his fair share and more of like the Roy of the Rovers moments. Like all the important goals, all the big games, always Sam Stanton who's there.
See, the thing is, before he was good, but he's added goals to his game in this side, like substantially. Like he just seems to be constantly scoring. The main thing I put in my notes next to this goal was just one word, which was streetwise. It was by far and away the most streetwise goal that you will see from a club at this level. Because just to have Brown's sort of just the wherewithal to just think, right, get this out wide. And then it's like straight away the defender's out of position, and then their remaining back three effectively are like, oh, we know that this is coming. We know what's coming next. Connolly right down the wing. Smith does so well to bomb after it and get in there. And then as soon as that ball goes in, you know that it's just absolute carnage in there. And that Stanton's powering in to get it. And just the scenes after that goal was just like, everyone's like, I can't believe it's happened again. It's happened again. I don't think I even processed the fact that we picked up 3 points from that match until I was down where the four ways used to be on my way to Morrison's for a lift home from my mate, because it was just like so ridiculous. It was just so ridiculous. But another fun game, probably the most insane game I can really remember being at Starks Park, to be honest. Just certainly in a decade or so. Just tremendous.
It was like we say that every week, though. Like, do you know what I mean? They're going to have to bring out a DVD or something. I'm going to forget half of these because.
Didn't he start? The neighbours along the road will be greeting that this is like the biggest season for us ever. But
let them, because it's
they're going to have to start a calming app to bring the heart rates down. They're going to have like calming music that they have available on their Instagram account after the kickoff, just to bring your heart down. Because yesterday my Garmin watch would just kept flashing. Your seem stressful. Oh.
That's it. The cardiologist at the Vic must be absolutely terrified.
I think Scott's point as well, I was just having a wee look there while he was saying that about Sam Stanton. So you go back through the goals that he's scored. So obviously last night he scores a winner in a 4-3. Dunfermline, he scores the opening goal in a 3-0 win. Hamilton scores the opening goal in a 4-1 win. Dunfermline scores the only goal in a 1-0 win. Dunfermline only goal in a 1-0 win. Every goal he scores. And you're absolutely right. It's this, maybe you don't get this, but this Royal Rovers thing. It's like he doesn't score meaningless goals. He scores important goals.
Aye, these are goals that like you would pick to score for yourself if you had the chance. I actually think the very opposite is that Tommy Adeloye. I think he's the kind of guy who scores the fourth goal in a 4-0 win. He came on for Thistle against Ayr United there on the season. He scored with his first touch, but it's like he kind of needs the game to be done. I certainly, what I've seen from him, he's no kind of in it for the fight.
See, I think just on a side note, just to go and just say, to go from the see when we were 3-2 down as well, I've got to say that what's really interesting is before, if you go to Starks Park and we get into that position, that crowd turns toxic. That did not happen last night. And that is something that I just want to say very, very specifically, that the atmosphere around the place has changed so much because of these games. And the players deserve that credit in the bank, that atmosphere doesn't become people yelling, oh, you're stupid, you're daft, you're doing this, you're doing that, what are you doing that for? Things didn't go to plan during the start of that second half. But everyone had complete faith that it was going to turn around. And what a difference that is, because that must mean, I don't know what it's like for the players, but see, even just being another fan in the stand and like being in that environment, it's just brilliant. it's just great. Like, it's just
I was going to kind of raise a similar point, but actually I felt a wee bit different. I felt like that's maybe a time thing because it did start to feel a wee bit antsy. I mean, I sat a wee bit further
it felt
back.
antsy, no doubt. Yeah.
But no, there was a couple of shouts I'd heard. Not like a huge amount. There's always an idiot. Like, they're always but there was a few like kind of grumbles and getting upset and stuff. And I kind of said, like, it's that thing of, if you can't support them when it's tough, you didn't deserve them when it's good. And that's my only worry at the moment is, I'm not worried because that sounds stupid, but it's so good at the moment. And it is. It's been great all season and people are getting right behind it. But it's likely to turn at some point. We might go up to Arbroath on Wednesday and we might, it might collapse. They're human beings. They're not going to be imperious every 90 minutes. And it's really important the influence that the crowd can have on that team. But yeah, it's you're right. It didn't turn yesterday, but it'd have been interesting to see if we'd done the usual and gone to the 90th minute before we got the equaliser, and then a bit later, whether that would have been quite the same. I'd like to think it would be.
I think you're right, Robbie. Over the piece, it's a much more enjoyable place to be, and obviously the fact that we're winning games and stuff is the by far and away the biggest contributing factor to that. But I do think that, and the team earns this, but I do think they have got more fans on side more often, and there's just that kind of belief that kind of permeates across everything. And I'm going to do a wee bit of free advertising for the club here. Not that they need it, or that particularly the people who listen to the Raith Rovers podcast aren't already invested in this. But there's half-season tickets on sale at the moment, right? Now, if you don't have one already, I cannot think even close that there is another season ticket in the country this season that's been anywhere near the value that we've had out of ours.
Yeah.
Definitely
now,
not.
obviously, there's no guarantee that will continue. We could have a terrible second half of the season, but it doesn't look likely. I mean,
what's been our most, other than the Airdrie game a few weeks back, our most dull game at home has been a 3-2 win against Morton, where we still got to bam up Robbie Muirhead something fierce at the end, and it's ridiculous when you look. That as well.
And let's be perfectly honest about this. If you want to get tickets when we get to the Scottish Cup final, and if you want to get tickets when, we've got something else going on.
If
guys,
you want to get to Las Palmas, you need to get your season ticket.
It's season ticket holders first, guys. So, come and join the queue. Like,
I was thinking about it the other day, and I reckon, given like the time that I've been watching the Rovers, number of games that I get to, I think I must be knocking on the door of about 1,000 games that I've seen the Rovers play, if you include friendlies and stuff like that. And the top 10, honestly, there could be 4 or 5 or 6 of them from this season.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which is unbelievable. It's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, I said that.
Sorry, carry on.
I got home from Hampden, and I was saying, I was like, that, honestly, one of the best games of football I've ever seen. And then we went to East End Park and beat them 3-0. And I was like, knocked into number 2 already. And it just, I was thinking as well, there was a couple of seasons back where a really kind of mundane season. I can't honestly even remember what it was. It was one of McGunn's seasons. But even at the fact it was quite middle of the road, all the goals we scored at home were at the other end.
Right.
So we scored something like 3 goals in front of the South Stand all season. Again, like a season ticket that year, there's not very much, no great amount of value in that. Compare that to this year, and it's absolutely just unbelievable entertainment. It won't last forever, it certainly won't, but being on for the ride just now has been an incredible amount of fun, and long may it continue.
Yeah, we were talking about this last night. I've been following the Rovers since I was 9-year-old, so you're talking 30 years. Actually, that's depressing. But I don't ever remember it being this good. The team in the 90s was good, and it was good, and they were successful and all the rest of it. I was young, so I don't have the same kind of, same memories of it, I suppose it's fair to say. But I never remember us being this good. And that was the word we used last night, was good. Like, we've won games and we've won important games and we've been lucky at times. And you know, I think back to the season that we run the Pars close at the top of the first division, which is probably the last time we got. I suppose under McGlynn we got close in the COVID season as well, but the last time we properly ran close at the top end of this league, and we won games because we were the hardest working team in the league. We weren't good. Like we weren't. We scored good goals and we won good games, but you wouldn't go watch the Rovers. By the way, they're a really good side. But like right now, if you know the Rovers are on the telly on a Friday night and you're a neutral, there's got to be a little bit of you thinking it's probably got to be a decent watch. If not, you're going to get a 95th minute winner. So,
and as well, just before Duncan, you come on, I want to caveat as well. I feel like this is only the beginning, in the sense of that, like, not necessarily that this season, and again, we'll come back to this in a little bit. Not necessarily that this season we're going to be like, I'm predicting that we're going to romp the league and that United will fall off and that everything's going to be absolutely fantastic. Not for a second. What I'm going to say is next season, even if we're in this league, do I think that we're taking a step back? Absolutely not. This is a club to get invested in for the people in the town, and 100%. That, like, again, I said that, I put that on the socials last night after the game. You'll go to places, and before, historically, been so bad for this, and I've always had to kind of have a bit of a bite my tongue. People obviously know what I'm like through this podcast, that I tend to speak my mind. You get people that go, who do you support? Oh, Raith Rovers. Oh, why do you support them? Why not? Oh, well, I guess someone's got to. Nah, change that attitude, completely flip that. Why wouldn't you support your local team, especially when it's like this and you've got lads like Dylan Easton, Lewis Vaughan, across the board, Sam Stanton, and you can come on and you can have that bond in terms of you don't even need to speak to the players. You can have that bond where you can go into your club and you can meet people, whether it's John Greer, the people in the office, you meet the people on the podcast, you go across. Absolutely superb. Would not trade this for the world. It's just the best feeling, and at the moment it's at the highest of highs that we could probably have it, and it can probably keep going. But yeah, just would not have it any other way.
I was going to say, just really quickly before we move on, because just to wrap up on the point that Robbie's making there, I turned into a wee boy last night. I had the best night ever. So in the club before the game, Jimmy Nicol is in the club. So I walk over and I honestly, I'm on this podcast. I like to talk. I couldn't say anything. I shook his hand and he looked at me and he went, "You all right?" I was like, "Great to meet you, Jimmy," and walked away. Like I just didn't know what to say. Like I turned into a wee boy. And then after the game, Callum Smith and and Dylan Easton came into the club after the game, and Callum was kind of the first up the line. The club I'm in, the Welling Club's kind of long and narrow. So Callum comes up the middle and he's shaking hands and stuff. And I must admit, I don't usually get up and go and speak to the players because there's kids and stuff that go and speak to them and that. And some guys do, which is absolutely fine. I don't usually. But Callum Smith, I was like, mate, change the game tonight. You were absolutely superb. You know, the goal, the assist, like how does he know start you next week? That kind of conversation. He's like, cheers, yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Dylan Easton comes up and he turns to me and he goes, "Blair," and he hugs me. And he goes, "Love the podcast." And I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Did somebody see that? Like, this club just keeps giving. And it's an absolute pleasure to be a part of this season. It really is.
100%. It's a different level of professionalism this season. I don't know what it is. There's something about it that it's a different level. It's still that core, that community. There is not that distance between fan and club, but there's something different. There's a different level.
You don't have to go back far.
Mm-hmm.
It feels to me like it's all very deliberate this season. There's method behind everything that's being done, both on the pitch and off the pitch. Because sometimes you get that where you kind of stumble upon a player or a youth player, or you get a lone player, and that makes your season. Yeah. Like, that'd be a really good example. Kevin Nisbet.
Yeah.
We stumbled on Kevin Nisbet. Not a chance when anybody signed him was anyone like, he's going to go
when we signed him. I was fuming.
It's like, who's this jobber? He's going to be no use at all. But then you can build a brilliant season on the back of a player like that. But that really is not the feeling with this. It's, as you said, Robbie, it doesn't feel like it's going to go away, because it feels like you could take parts out of it, like the obvious one, that you kind of keep going like this without your manager attracting attention. sooner or later somebody's going to go, he's doing a great job. But it feels like, again, the structure is there now, that you could take out parts. You could take out a key player that you lose in January, or you could potentially take the manager away. But the rest of the organisation is mature and professional enough that you can then account for those. And it might not be as good. I'm not saying that, again, like everything's going to be brilliant forever, but it just does feel much more sustainable and much more deliberate than it has done.
See to say about doing things deliberately. I can't say the word. I'm just going to skip by it.
On purpose.
Yes, on purpose. Right. It's easy to sort of say, oh, you're doing it that way, but it's actually very hard to get right. Perfect example for me is Dunfermline, right? Along the road, they have their friendship, whatever it is, with the German club, St. Pauli. Oh, we've got a pre-season. I wonder why that is. Our ex-director used to play for them, right? And you can see that they are pushing that. They are actively pushing that. They've got a wee, like, social club thing that they're like, oh, it's Dunfermline and St. Pauli. Do you think people in St. Pauli care about Dunfermline? Absolutely not. They're just another club that's trying to jump onto the thing. See us in Las Palmas. We have people from the Canary Islands tweeting in Spanish below our tweets saying, oh, it's another amazing comeback for the Rovers. You don't get that organically. It's just ridiculous. We are building something that's just completely different here. And the feeling behind it is just incredible. It's just, I'm glad that we've got these podcasts for posterity if it like all goes belly up in 18 months, because just how it is right now, it's just ridiculous. I've never felt this way in terms of how things are going and just how universal it seems to be about the club.
I'm going to move us on a little bit just because I feel like we could talk about this all day, but there's very few people who have 2.5 hour long commutes to listen to the podcast. So we've done an hour already. So let's quickly, we'll maybe cut this down a little bit. The Wednesday night, we're up the road to Arbroath. I'm sure there'll be a really decent sized travelling support that'll go. This is going to be a very interesting game. I think on paper, you'd be looking at this as actually one of the sort of quote unquote easier league games that we've had recently. But Arbroath under Jim McIntyre, in one way or another, are going to be a bit of a different beast from Dick Campbell's particularly kind of idiosyncratic approach to football. I think we'll get a feel today from Arbroath's game about kind of how much of a big change Jim McIntyre's managed to make immediately. But Scott, start with you. How do you feel kind of going into this one? And do you think anyone from the bench has earned a jersey for this one?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting, as you say, because obviously it's this whole midweek weekend again. So I do actually think he might change, not too much, maybe 2 or 3, just to kind of freshen it up a wee bit. And obviously you've still got to think about the huge game we've got next weekend up at Tannadice. You want to try and keep your players as fresh as possible, and I would actually prefer the games on Tuesday instead of Wednesday just for that extra game, but obviously for whatever reason they decided Wednesday was the time to do it. But no, I think we're probably, today might be a little bit actually a good watch in terms of see how they get on against Morton, Arbroath, as we're recording on Saturday. But I think, I don't know, I've just got this feeling it's going to come down to the terms of they've got very little confidence right now, whereas we've got every bit of confidence going for us and every bit of good luck's going our way just now. I just think I would be very, very surprised if we were to not drop points anyway. Like if we were, I cannot, Arbroath are struggling to score goals just now as well, and I think if anything, we're outscoring everybody. That's in games that are just ding-dong battles, like last night, we're just outscoring teams. So I just can't see Arbroath outscoring us. So I can only see 3 points. Maybe that's just a bit crazy to think, because Arbroath away has always been a tough place to go. But I just think this season, it's 2 teams completely different confidence side of things. So I just can only see a Rovers win.
Blair, before yesterday's game, you said that you were worryingly buoyant, which I feel like could have been an alternative title for this whole podcast, actually. Are you still worryingly buoyant? Are you more buoyant than you were worried?
Yeah, I'm getting more buoyant than worried. I just feel like we're good. Like I said already, we're good. Like we shouldn't be going up there and worrying about them. It's not an easy place to go, but by the same token, this is obviously the rearranged game for the one that we did the podcast for when it was off, and it was the middle of Hurricane ball bag or whatever it was at the time, and it was 60-mile-an-hour winds and driving rain and all the rest of it off the North Sea. But now you look at it, I was just having a wee look at the weather forecast. Light winds, no rain, so it's going to be cold, but perfect conditions for us to play football. And actually, it's the 1 week where I would be like, we say every week, how do you pick the team? Oh my God, how do you pick the team? Actually, you are going to make changes because Arbroath are a different beast. Like they're going to be quite physical. They're going to be quite direct, I would think. So likes of Callum Smith coming in, maybe resting Lewis Vaughan for the weekend. These kind of things make sense. Big game on Saturday, as Scott says. Yeah, I'm buzzing. I'm going up on the bus. I can't wait. Like honestly, this is where I'm at just now. It's like, right, I'm so happy we've got a midweek game, so I don't have to wait a week. Like, brilliant.
I think the other one I think I would guess is kind of top of the list to come out is possibly Josh Mullen. Just he's played a lot of football in a lot of different positions, and for obvious reasons, I think he is one of the ones that Ian Murray really trusts for the big games. So I would expect Josh Mullen to start at Tannadice. So I think, I would expect to see presumably Aidan Connolly coming in there. Carol, how are you feeling about Arbroath? Do you share the confidence for the boys?
Yeah, just looking back at some statistics on Arbroath, I don't think they've scored 4 goals since the end of September, so they're not exactly top scoring. And a player that we've not mentioned at all, Ross Matthews. Do you think he'll get some game time Wednesday?
That would be nice to see.
Yeah. Yeah, it was good to see him on the bench last night, the name there, but it'd be nice to get him some game time on Wednesday, and Arbroath would maybe be a good start for him.
Sorry, I think an ideal position for us would be to be a couple of goals up with 20 to go, and then say to Matthews, right, let's give Stanton a rest and put Matthews on, because I also worry that we play Burn, Stanton and Brown 90 minutes Wednesday, and then they're going to be knackered maybe come the 75th minute on the following weekend against Dundee United. So
does Stanton get tired? Does Stanton get tired? I've not seen any evidence of it.
I've seen once or twice this season when we've had this sort of midweek weekend sort of thing where he's just looked like he's not running about as much as what he has done. So I just take that as he might want a wee rest. And he has done it this season, Murray, where we've played these Challenge Cup games and he's actually not even had Stanton in the squad. So he's went, right, I'm not even wanting you to play today, just rest you. So I do think Stanton will start. I just think it would be good if we got a couple of goals up and we're able to say to Matthews, right, go and finish the job and give Stanton just 20 minutes less game time.
Yeah, I think Ross Matthews is probably closest to kind of Sam Stanton in terms of their style of play, and absolutely he's going to be an excellent option to have for the second half of the season. And Robbie, round us off on Arbroath. I mean, it looks, from everything we've seen from kind of Jim McIntyre in the past, I expect they'll go to just like a 4-4-2, like do the basics right, hammer it long. Confidence the Rovers side can kind of pick that apart?
100%, without a doubt. There's absolutely no reason to be going up there and being fearful without dismissing them and without sort of saying, yeah, it's going to be an easy game or anything like that. I've just got complete confidence that this side and the depth that we've got are going to find a way to do it. And hopefully we can get ourselves into a position where we have a win which is actually comfortable for once, rather than the 1,001 stories that we come out with about last minute winners or comebacks or all this. If we win, we're up to 36 points and we go into Tannadice full of confidence, and that's all we can do. Again, just focus on each game as it comes, to go into the cliche manager book that we were speaking about in our WhatsApp chat. Just one game at a time is all you can do, and the focus has just got to be on Arbroath. Just forget about Saturday. That's all we can do. And as it stands, we're currently 15 points. I know that they'll play today and they've got a sort of game in hand over us. 15 points ahead of Dunfermline in 4th place. 16 over Airdrie in 5th place for the playoffs. And again, if we get up to sort of the 36 points, we're getting into Dick Campbell's mythical, are we in a title race? But we're just focusing on staying safe from relegation here. And we will be almost at that mythical 40-point marker before Christmas, which is pretty astounding, to be honest. Just a ridiculously good start to the season.
So that's exactly it, and that leads me very nicely into our big question, because it's Dick Campbell inspired. Because as Robbie says, that season they ran Kilmarnock close, and every week he was like, "Oh, I just want to get to 40 points." Like, shut up, man! You're second in the table, running Kilmarnock down to the wire. And he keeps banging on about just trying to avoid relegation. So I suspect we're not going to do that. Ian Murray might, to be fair. He might want to play things down. But we have been emboldened on this podcast. And looking at things as they stand, right? So we're now 8 points ahead of Thistle and got a game in hand. And Dundee United are 6 points clear of Thistle with 2 games in hand. So my question for each of you then is, do we have to declare this a title race? And is it a 2-horse race at this point? And Carol, start with you, please.
Oh, I mean, there's part of me is going, do I want to tell younger supporters, don't get used to this. This is not how it works. But the other part of me, the 15-year-old in me is going, enjoy it. And we're going to go right to the end. And I am going to come home for a couple more games this season, and I will be on the pitch at the end of the season, celebrating a championship win, enjoying it. There, I am fully behind this. And I don't care if someone cuts this and throws it back in my face at the end of the season. I think we can do it. I really think we can do it. I think Dundee United are going to slip up, are not going to... They're good, but there's our other half of the season to go, and we're good. We're good at the moment. Not just good, we're good at the moment.
Talking about that, walking down Pratt Street after the game, talking to my dad about, like, if you're Dundee United, this must be so incredibly frustrating to watch.
Yeah.
Because you'd have that mindset of Premiership budget, Championship division, and you're actually putting the points on the board as well. To give Dundee United their credit, they're putting up enough points to be worthy of walking away with the division. And the Rovers will not let go. And the manner that they're doing it, that has got to play on your mind every week.
It's laughable. It really is laughable. It's like I shared in our WhatsApp, after the Cali game, I think it was. We are literally the meme of Mo from The Simpsons chucking Barney out of Mo's Tavern, and then he just appears over the shoulder again. They must think every week, they must be like, they're dead and buried this time, their luck's run out. And then next thing you know, we're just back behind you again. Sorry, guys. I know you've got that nice 27 plus goal difference and we're miles off that, but we still just keep winning games. So we're here for now. So
I don't understand the whole, fans must know this by now. We're into December. How many times we've won a game late on, and you can see Partick Thistle fans last night as it went 3-2. Oh, yeah, that's us ruined their streak. That's it. Going. And I'm like, boys, come on. It's 20 minutes to go. 12 minutes later, they're not even winning. You're just going, how many times do we need to tell and show you, how good we are, but also, how this team just doesn't know when to stop. And it just keeps going and keeps going. And there will be a game at some point that we're going to drop points and we're not going to get that late goal. But whilst it keeps happening, people just need to stop thinking it's going to happen, because it's just, for some reason, we just think, nah, we've got it.
That's it. And so, Scott, you prepared to call this a title race?
Absolutely. I think, excellent. What's the point in shying away from it now? We're now 8 points clear of Partick with a game in hand. So it potentially could be 9 or 11, or it could be 8, but our game in hand is Wednesday night. So it would have been different if our game in hand was away to Tannadice. So I just don't see how people keep shying away from it and just go like we are not Arbroath a couple of seasons. We're not on a part-time team. We're not like we've shown in the summer with what we spent money-wise in terms of contracts this season. We're prepared to go toe-to-toe with anybody in the division. I actually feel hard done by that Dundee United are in the league, because think how almost easy it would have been if they weren't in the league and it was Dundee for last season. We'd have been sweeping Dundee for last season aside, because they only kind of woke up really the last month of the season to make sure that they won that league. But no, I think we just need to keep going, as they say, game by game. But I just think we absolutely are in a title race, and it's just, obviously I'm coming back home next week. I cannot wait to be at Tannadice next week. Like I've been waiting for this for weeks, and just every week is just you guys go mental in the group chat. And I'm just like my neighbours will be glad that I'm away home for a month, because it's just me, or I've had a couple of mates around a few times, but like it's just been great to watch. But I just wish I was there.
We'll get him back to tell the story himself at some point. But Ian Latto was apparently in a very nice, very calm Utrecht restaurant that he'd convinced to put the game on last night. And I mean, I'm not convinced that I'll have long-term implications from him, but I think he might now be barred from that restaurant. The extent of the celebrations. I suspect I know the answers by now, but Robbie, title race?
100%. Absolutely here for it. See, right, this is what I'm going to say is, see if you're a football fan of any club, if you can't enjoy this moment, what's the point in doing it, right? So just get that out there. It's not arrogance, it's not getting ahead of ourselves, it's just the fact that we're in this position now, we just keep coming back, where we've done so well to get where we're at. Again, nobody's sort of proclaiming boldly that, oh, United are going to completely lose it and we're guaranteed for it. But no means is anyone getting ahead of themselves on that front. With the squad that we've got, with how things are going, how well we've done, we are 100% at this moment in a title race. It could be done by January. It could all go horribly wrong. But again, let's just enjoy the moment, and let's just the human aspect of football that is the optimism and where we're at. And again, as I said before, even if it does, we're in a long-term project. At the start of the season, if you'd told us that we were going to be, 8 points ahead of Thistle that we are, something stupid like that, who are in third place and that we're top of the league, you would have killed for that. You would have absolutely killed for that, given how strongly Thistle ended last season up to the last, 45 minutes of their game up in Dingwall. Yeah, we're in a ridiculously good position at the moment. And this is just the start of a very positive era, you feel, for the club. So long may it continue.
That's it. It doesn't feel flash in the pan. It feels like, as you say, the start of something rather than the kind of pinnacle of it. And Blair, I'll give you the final word on this. Happy to call us title contenders?
I thought about doing the no and then laughing, but without a doubt, unbelievably. I was actually just looking at the table. If we were where Dunfermline are, at the beginning of the season, you'd said that by December, by this time, you would be where Dunfermline are, sitting fourth by a point with a game in hand. You'd probably go, yeah, take that. That'd be all right. We're currently sitting top of the league. Yeah, granted, Dundee United have got a game in hand. But I mean, I was singing top of the league in your no last night, and one of my mates was going, oh, easy. I was like, no, if we're only top of the league for 10 minutes, I am singing that we're top of the league. I lived through the banter years. We've done Gary Locke and all that. I've earned this. I have actually earned this. So no, I am 100%. And it feels like the club know we're in a title race as well, which I really like. They won't say it, and they shouldn't, absolutely. But a big mention about the buses for next week, the board. The vision to just say to the fans, and it's such, we've talked about simple wins, but let's not be daft, right? Why are the club putting buses on? Because they want a big crowd to try and get behind the team to try and win that game, right? Which they could have easily said. But instead, the club say, it's nearly Christmas, it's the most expensive away day of the season, we want to give something back to our fans. Easy win. Do you know what I mean? An absolute easy win. And not just are they putting the buses on themselves. So I'm going to just give a wee shout out to one of my mates who I know will be listening to this. So Stevie Gray runs our supporters bus. I know Kev's been on and Robbie, you've been on as well this season. And he did it off his own back at the beginning of the year. He's like, I'm just going to start organising a bus. And he's like, I need to run it at a wee bit of a profit at the beginning of the year just because there's going to be games where we might not have enough bodies. And actually what he did was he subsidised the Inverness game so that we basically paid the same to get to Dunfermline as what we paid to get to Inverness. He also subsidised, because he filled the bus, he subsidised a group of young boys were getting a bus organised. So we subsidised their bus. He's now gone and spent like 200 quid on toys for the cottage toys appeal on behalf of the bus. He's donated money on behalf of the bus. And then the club phoned them through the week and said, we're putting free buses on, but we're going to pay for your bus as well. Like, I don't want you thinking that this, you know, it's not just we're putting other buses on. They've basically paid for our bus as well. It's such a great feeling about the place. There's a real togetherness on the go at the moment. And it's just about getting as many bodies as we can up to Tannadice next Saturday, because we should be going up there fancying it. Murray is a better manager than Jim Goodwin, and I'm going to say that now. He 100% is. And we're not just in a title race. We're in the title race. Like, you know, we're not hanging on. We're not just there to make up the numbers kind of thing. I genuinely think Dundee United should be worried about us. So, and I know that will get clipped and probably thrown back at me at some point. But you know what? I've earned it, and I don't care. Like,
and 100% though. But the thing is, if you're in their position, they've done everything perfectly so far, and we're still right. We're ahead of them today. Admittedly, they've got a game over us, but yeah, everything that they've done. And if it doesn't start going, if they don't start well next week and we get ahead of them, you can guarantee that their fans are going to be absolutely peeling at their players. So yeah, let's get through.
Sorry, but even if they're 1-0 up in the 80th minute,
their
fans are still going to be worried
in their head. But the most important thing for now, for me, just get Arbroath out the way. I know it's such a cliche. I'm a cliche machine right now, but let's get Arbroath out the way, and then we'll see how we're doing. And again, we'll go into that game up at Tannadice still in a good position, regardless of how the Arbroath game goes. But yeah, if we can go in after taking full points at Arbroath, then what a position that would be.
That is exactly it. And I am going to bring us to a close before we hit the 90-minute mark and the Rovers start scoring goals into us. So thank you once again, everybody, for listening. Thank you, everybody who's watching as well. Thank you to you guys for talking through that game with me as well. And thank you sincerely and massively to everybody at the football club this season for everything that they've done so far. It really has been pretty incredible up till this point, and as we've said all along this afternoon, we started in the morning, but it's now this afternoon. There's no sign that it's going to stop. So we will see you on Wednesday night at Gayfield. We will be back, I believe, Thursday night to talk about it and to look forward to the game at Tannadice as well. And then absolutely, that's going to be a really, really big week for us. So as I say, thank you, and we'll see you again soon.